Today guys, I'm going to be showing you how you can write the best ChatGPT prompts. It's actually quite a bit of a process, but once you kind of get it down, you'll end up with the best results. So as I get into this, if it does find work and you find it useful and informative, smash that like button, subscribe for more hints and tips, and let's get started. Okay guys, so let's work through a bit of a list of things that we need to do in order to create the best ChatGPT prompt. Okay, so we're going to start at the very top here. We need to use simple language, okay, or more specifically, we need to ask ChatGPT to make sure that it uses simple language. Write plainly with short sentences. So for example, I need help with this issue. Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to do when it comes to writing these prompts. Okay, now I'm going to work my way through each of these one by one, so just bear with me 1 second whilst I go ahead and bring them into view. Okay, so you've got to avoid AI giveaway phrases, right? And these are like the cliches, like dive into, unleash your potential, and etc. Right? So you need to tell the AI, the ChatGPT, to basically make sure that it doesn't use these phrases. Say things like avoid, let's dive into this game-changing solution. Use instead, here's how it works. Right? And if you give it these prompts, these kind of ideas, you can strip back the kind of clear giveaways that you're using ChatGPT. Next on the list is this one right here, which is that you want to be direct and concise, right? Get to the point, remove any unnecessary words. For example, should we meet tomorrow? Okay, again, using these within our prompt is going to help us deliver the best results. Next on the list, we have to maintain a natural tone, right? So you want to write as you would normally speak, right? It's okay to start sentences with and or but. So for example, and that's why this matters, or that's why it matters, right? And these are the examples that we will feed into ChatGPT later. Then down here, we also have another prompt, which is to avoid marketing languages, right? Basically, you don't use hype or promotional words, which are clear giveaways. So you want to avoid things like, this revolutionary product will transform your life. Instead, use this product can help you, right? Next on the list, we have this one, which is basically keep it real. Be honest, don't force friendliness. For example, I don't think that's the best idea. Okay, now these are things that we are going to feed into our prompt so that we can get the best results. Next on the list here is this one, which is basically to simplify the grammar, right? Don't stress about perfect grammar, right? The chat AI, bot is going to be grammatically perfect. And well, that isn't really going to be what every human on planet Earth is going to be like, right? In fact, very, very few people would. So it's fine not to capitalize the I's if that is your style, right? So for example, I guess we can try that, right? Now, next on the list is to stay away from all the fluff, right? Avoid the unnecessary adjectives and adverbs, right? If, for example, we finished the task. Right now, next on the list is to focus on the clarity, right? Make your message easy to understand. For example, please send the file by Monday, right? This kind of terminology, when we kind of feed it in the prompt itself, actually means that you're crafting the best result. Let's keep going here and actually take a look at how we would actually craft this out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into role, the goal, the requirements, which is all those things we've just been talking about, the content, enhancement guidelines, right? And then the structural elements, the natural kind of language elements, okay? And all of that is then going to basically allow us to get the best possible result. It's quite a big prompt, right? So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give ChatGPT a role, okay? And we're going to say that you are a world-class SEO content writer, specializing in generating content that is indistinguishable from human authorship, right? Your expertise lies in capturing emotional nuance, right? Cultural relevance and contextual authenticity, ensuring content that resonates naturally with any audience. Okay, so first of all, what we're doing here is we're basically saying to ChatGPT, this is who you are. This is your entire persona, okay? And then we're going to give ChatGPT a goal. The goal is that you will now write an article based on the outline that you created above. So we'd put in the article type, whether that's a blog post or some kind of news article with a URL. We're then going to tell it the target audience. That target audience might be, Americans between the age of 25 and 35, for example. Maybe they have an income of X, Y, and Z. Maybe they have X, Y, and Z hobbies, for example. Then we're going to say we want a specific word count, okay, number of words. Now, this can be a little bit tricky. I like to put in here that we say at least the certain number of characters or words, right? So, for example, I often say I want, my kind of word count to be at least 2,000 words, and therefore you're not capping it. You're not kind of making it kind of fit to just a very specific criteria. You're saying it has to be at least 2,000. You could also say make it under 5,000. Whatever kind of works for you, you can mess around with that. I personally found that I like to have my kind of articles and things around kind of 2,000, but not anything lower. So I always say at least 2,000. Then underneath here, you tell ChatGPT that your content, or as in ChatGPT's content, should be convincingly human-like, engaging, and of course compelling. The outcome, the output, should maintain a logical flow, natural transitions, and spontaneous tone, right? Strive for a balance between technical precision and emotional relatability. This is kind of key because this kind of sets up the tone and sets the whole entire kind of structure of the actual news article that it's writing, or article that it's blog post that it's writing, right? And at this point, we need to give it some requirements. We need to give it some parameters to kind of make sure that things stay within structure and the correct tone. So in here, for example, it would say, we want to maintain a reading ease of a score around 80, for example. That's going to be good. You can obviously adjust with that as needs be. Use a controversial and engaging tone. If that's not what you want, you can adjust this requirement to whatever tone that you want, whether that's casual, professional, whatever. You'd put that into your parameters and your requirements. Then it's obviously, want to add kind of natural kind of digression about related topics that matter, right? And again, you can adjust that as needed. You want to mix, or I say, mix professional jargon and work terms with casual explanations, which I find works really well. And then mix the subtle emotional cues and rhetorical questions from now and again. Obviously, making sure the grammar, that you kind of want to have in there that is there to create informal and engaged tones throughout the written content. Every sentence length and structure should be mixed, right? It should be mixing the long sentences with the shorter sentences, impactful sentences, and more complex ones, right? You want to make sure that there's a variety within the written content, not some kind of pattern that just repeats itself. Underneath that, we then want to make sure that there's something about structure and how to structure sentences to connect words quite closely. That's the dependency grammar for ease of the comprehension, i.e. the person who's reading this blog post, we need to make sure that it flows correctly. Then, of course, we want to ensure that there's logical coherence with dynamic rhythm, across the different paragraphs. This is quite a crucial one because if you don't have it, ChatGPT can become very repetitive. Then, of course, we want to include diverse vocabulary and unexpected word choices to enhance the intrigue. This one, you may omit it, it's entirely up to you, you can adjust that, because if you do give ChatGPT a little bit too much room, you're going to end up with some words that maybe don't quite line up with the reading ease of score of 80. It's important to make sure that those two things kind of work in balance, of course. We want to avoid, excessive adverbs, include kind of mild repetition, for emphasis, but avoid excessive and mechanical patterns. That's an important one. We want to use rhetorical and playful kind of subheadings that mimic a natural conversational tone. The transition between sections with connecting phrases instead of just treating them as, discrete parts. Then combine the stylistic points about rhetorical questions, analogies, and emotional cues into a streamlined guideline to reduce potential overlap. Okay, again, these are all a part of the kind of requirements. Then the last two here are to adjust the tone dynamically, keeping the conversation, or at least keeping it conversational and engaging for general audiences, and more formal or precise for professional topics. Use emotional cues sparingly for technical content. And then the last one is to use those rhetorical questions, and sparingly too, to add emotional resonance and of course enhance the conversational tone. Okay, so those are the requirements, and these are quite important, but you can of course adjust them if you need to as per your own kind of style. Then underneath that, you've got the content enhancement guidelines. Again, these are more guidelines to help ChatGPT deliver exactly what you want. So the first thing is to introduce rhetorical questions, those emotional cues and casual phrases like "you know what," and where they actually enhance the readability or the flow of the article that's being written. Now, for professional audiences, emotional cues should be restrained but still relatable. For general audiences, cue can be more pronounced, or at least kind of, to invoke a connection of some kind. Now, overusing conventional filters or informal language kind of where appropriate, right? Just, hit honestly, these are words that really do help kind of make the readability there and the authenticity. Now, introducing the sensory details is only kind of when they actually enhance clarity or the engagement. You want to avoid it, or ChatGPT should be avoiding the overuse of this, which it can do from time to time. So having that in there for the enhancement guidelines is critical. Then down below that, we have avoid using the flowing words. That's opt, dive, unlock, unleash, intricate, utilization, transformative, align, proactive, scalable, and benchmark. Now you can add to that, remove these kind of phrases as you need to. There's a whole host of words that ChatGPT kind of cycles through. It kind of is a dead giveaway, so you can build on this list of things to avoid as time progresses. Underneath this, you have the phrases to avoid. So in this world, in today's world, at the end of the day, on the same page, end to end, in order to, best practices, dive into. These are things that ChatGPT should also be instructed to avoid. Now, it wants to mimic, or we're telling ChatGPT here to mimic human imperfections, like slightly informal phrasing or unexpected transitions. And then aim for high perplexity, varied vocabulary and sentence structures, and kind of, burstiness, a short of mix and long sentences to create a dynamic and engaging flow. Ensure cultural, contextual and emotional nuances that are accurately conveyed, right? And that's to ensure that they are accurately conveyed. Strive for spontaneity, making the text feel written in the moment. Reference real tools, real brands, or resources only when appropriate. Then include industry-specific metaphors and analogies, right? Tie in seasonal elements on current trends when related. Okay, so that kind of marks up the content enhancement guidelines. Now, underneath this, you have the structural elements as well. This means mixing the paragraphs, right, between 1 to 7 sentences. Again, I would adjust this probably to something like 5 to 8 sentences, something to that effect, right? Use bullet-pointed lists sparingly and naturally, right? Basically, ChatGPT loves to do this without the kind of prompts not to. Basically, it just lists things out in bullet points, and actually that's really not that useful. It wants to do that sparingly. It doesn't want to do that very often. Include conventional subheadings, right? Ensure logical coherence and dynamic rhythm across the different paragraphs. Use varied kind of punctuation naturally, dashes, semicolons, parentheses, but don't overdo it. And mix formal and casual language naturally. Use a mix of active and passive voice, but lean towards active, right? Include mild contradictions that you'll explain later. Or at least that you'll later explain. Now, before kind of drafting, create a brief outline and skeleton to ensure logical flow and structure. Okay, now that is something that is really important to also add in to the structural elements, and you can see how ChatGPT thinks whilst it's actually processing the prompt, which is great because then you can kind of enhance this if you need to. Now, underneath this, you have the natural language elements. This is also very important, specifically to how you want the content to sound. So I've got, where appropriate, include casual phrases like "you know what" and "honestly." This is the stuff that we were talking at the beginning of the video. Where appropriate, use transitional phrases like "let me explain" or "here's the thing" to kind of guide the reader smoothly through the content. Now, underneath that, we have regional expressions or cultural references. And then under that, you have analogies that relate to everyday life, right? Mimic human imperfections like slightly informal phrasing or unexpected transitions. This kind of is a bit of duplication, but it's important to have it under the heading of natural language elements. Now, underneath that, we have introduce mild repetition of ideas and phrases, and kind of as humans kind of naturally do when emphasizing a point or when writing spontaneously, I should say. Now, add a small amount of redundancy in sentence structure or wording, but keep it minimal to avoid affecting readability. Include subtle natural digressions or tangents, but ensure that they connect back to the main point to maintain the focus. Now that is your prompt entirely. Now from that prompt, you are going to be able to get the best results out of ChatGPT. And there you have it, guys. That's how I go ahead and write the best ChatGPT prompts with ChatGPT for the best results. Let me know how you get on down in the comments below. If it works for you, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll catch you all in the next one.